MotorWeek is made possible by Auto Value and Bumper to Bumper and TireRack.com.
Behind the smoke is the 2026 Dodge Charger SIXPACK, and underscoring the raucous of squealing tires is a real deal, carbon coughing, all pipe, no speakers exhaust. But attached to a Hemi V8, it ain't. Instead, a powertrain with 2 less cylinders, but'll still rock you like a hurricane. But more on that in a minute. Running this internal combustion 8th gen Charger down 8th mile passes on Knoxville Dragway was both poetic and proper, like it was in its natural habitat. But we didn't go all the way to Tennessee just for that, especially with one of America's most fabled driving roads nearby. Tail of the Dragon, an 11-mile stretch of road consisting of no less than 318 curves. Putting the Charger on this road, while not an impossible task, would be considered by many to be unnatural. Well, here I am doing it regardless, and I have to say, I actually think it was a genius move. Not because this is the ultimate car for Tail of the Dragon, it's big, it's heavy, but it's because a road like this shows all the work that Dodge has put into the Charger SIXPACK to reinvigorate the formula that has been so wildly successful for them over the years, and with this, looks to continue that trend. We've already road tested this latest generation of Charger, but that was the Daytona, the battery electric version of it. This SIXPACK is internal combustion only. Now, unlike the old days where a SIXPACK referred to the number of barrels in the carburetors, this simply refers to the cylinder count. What we have under the hood is the Stellantis Group's Hurricane 3-liter inline-6, a twin turbocharged engine that here in the Scat Pack I'm driving makes 550 horsepower and 531 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty rad. Those turbochargers, it's a pair of Garrett turbos, 54 millimeter in size. They build up to 30 PSI of boost. But what's really cool about this engine is that 88% of peak torque is felt at 2,500 RPM. And then between $3,000 and $6,000, you're feeling over 90%. So you're gonna get a lot of low-end pickup there. And on a road like this, where I do have to slow down pretty substantially for the corners, I can rock it right out of them. Even following the speed limit, you can feel that out. There will be an RT with a standard output. It's the same 3-liter unit, twin turbocharged and all, but that one's gonna make a little less power, 420 horsepower, 468 pound-feet of torque, which is still plenty potent. Both of those cars, it's all-wheel drive standard, and you get an 8-speed automatic as standard. What's interesting about the all-wheel drive system, so in the normal mode, it's a 50-50 split. But right now I've got it in the sport mode. I've got 40% of power to the front and 60% of power to the rear. And if that's not good enough for you, if you bring it to a stop, you can actually set it in a rear-wheel drive mode where 100% of torque will actually go to the rear wheels. That's great for drifting, for donuts, or just that old-school muscle car feel. And I love that they've done something like that here. The 8-speed automatic does have paddle shifters with it, which is a nice inclusion. I wish the paddles were maybe a little bit bigger, but beyond that, the automatic seems to be keeping up with me just fine. I'm not really having any issues. And on the highway, the whole combination is very smooth and it just feels fine. Now on this road, you are very, very, very aware of its size. This new Charger SIXPACK, it's a large vehicle. It's over 200 inches long on a 121-inch wheelbase. And Dodge prides themselves on this thing practically being a wide body in of itself, about 80 inches wide. That's a big vehicle and it's heavy. You're gonna feel some of that roll. You're gonna feel that weight transfer. These are all sort of classic muscle car traits, but they're not quite as exacerbated as they would be in maybe the prior generation. The SIXPACK weighs just over 4,800 pounds, spread out with a 55 front, 45 rear weight bias. And yet, that heft isn't always so apparent. One cause for that may be the way its weight is spread out across its form. Lighter than expected steering, suspension reworking, and overall stiffening also might explain it, and why we were brought out to such a technical road. The Scat Pack's standard 6-piston front Brembos meant no ambiguity or uncertainty when pulling back on these reins. I'm not going to comment too much on the interior because it's very similar to what we've seen with the Daytona already. The cabin blends more modern than retro into its design, headlined by 2 large displays, but there are some small cues, like this pistol grip shifter, that find ways to inject some old school personality. Okay, look, I'm just going to address the elephant in the room here. Yes, I too would like to see a Hemi V8 under the hood. Not so much because it needs V8 power to get moving, but because the Charger's throwback style and large presence just begs for an equally large and time-tested powertrain. The recent unveiling of the Hustle Stuff drag pack shows a Hemi V8 can fit. This thing is absolutely sick, and we hope it's just a precursor to a more consumer-obtainable, street-legal V8 powered Charger on the way. But we do have to commend Dodge on their current efforts because the six-pack does check off many of the boxes on the muscle car requirements list. Those looking to get swept up by this straight-six whirlwind will need to pony up $51,990 for the RT, which includes destination. Now the RT comes later next year. Coming sooner is the Scat Pack, which starts at $56,990, and you can buy the battery electric Daytona should you be content with a Charger requiring a charger at $61,990. Add another $2,000 for a 4-door configuration of any. And it may not hurt to turn that rainy day fund into a spare tire fund instead.
The MotorWeek app, which includes our latest reviews and feature stories, is now available for mobile devices.